Yo, what is up? Special edition of We Like the Blazers. We had Senator Ron Wyden on to talk about Bill Walton, who the Blazers will be honoring on March 9th against the Detroit Pistons. So, Connor, we're going to go into that interview, and then you and I are going to do some talking. How do you feel about that?
Sounds pretty good to me. Let's jump in.
All right, let's do it. Here's our interview with Senator Ron Wyden. With us, back again for the second time. He's basically the We Like the Blazers political correspondent at this point. It is Oregon's senior United States Senator Ron Wyden. Senator Wyden, thank you for being here.
I'm honored.
So, Senator Wyden, the main reason why we're having you on the show today is that the Portland Trail Blazers are honoring the great Bill Walton at their March 9th game against the Detroit Pistons. And we just wanted to talk to you about Bill and what you are looking forward to about that night.
He was such a remarkable guy, and I have a book out now called Takes Chutzpah. And if ever there was an athlete who had chutzpah, it was our very own Bill Walton. I mean, playing, for example, with those endless arrays of injuries, year after year after year. What a gutsy guy. It certainly showed a lot of chutzpah to overcome that lifetime stutter, and he became an outstanding announcer. And then for a lot of us, one of our favorite examples of Walton chutzpah was when he was a student at UCLA, and he was one of the first white athletes to join in the tradition of helping black athletes speak out against injustice. And I just will tell you, I might have mentioned it to you on one of the other shows, that the experience that I can laugh about to this day is, for years, Bill Walton and I were on the road. I was a young member of Congress traveling home for town meetings. He was getting started in his broadcasting career and that kind of thing. And I could always see him at the end of a long, runway inside an airport. And as he got closer and closer to me, started waving, Ron, how you doing? How's it going? I said, hi, Bill. And he goes, just be more liberal. And that was always something I'll remember.
Yeah, what was the extent of your relationship with Bill? And was it mainly just these run-ins at mutual events? And how did your relationship grow and change over the years?
We always did see each other at events, but Bill was intensely interested, as you can imagine, in politics and government. I always kind of harbored the thought that maybe someday he'd be interested in running for office. I think he probably would, if we talked to him about it, said, I'd love to be behind the scenes. I'd love to run it. I could show these people how to do it. But he was very, very interested in politics. He knew that I had played, and I've been friends with Bill Bradley. He was very fond of Bill Bradley as well. And it just went from there.
I'm curious, Senator Wyden. So, you see Bill Walton at the airport. He's telling you got to be more liberal. Maybe Bill is interested in politics. Did Bill Walton ever ghostwrite any policy or any legislation on behalf of you in the great state of Oregon, or did he kind of stay out of that stuff?
He would clearly have views on military, policy. I'm pretty sure I remember some very powerful conversations with respect to the Iraq War. I was one of 20, maybe 21 in the Senate who voted against the war in Iraq. He thought that was a pivotal issue. So yeah, we talked a lot about specifics, and because he had suffered so many injuries, he was always interested in what the Great Panthers, I was the co-director for a long time, were doing on healthcare issues, and then of course he was a fierce advocate of civil rights.
So were you surprised to see an NBA athlete this well-read on all these topics? What did you respect about these conversations you had with him? I
wasn't surprised because I had known about it even from people who were playing, with him at UCLA and who were traveling with him. Bill always had a book in his hand, and it always was a pretty big one. There were no kind of novels, and Bill Walton was not going to be somebody who said, shut up and dribble.
Was there something about Bill, either as a player or as a person, or maybe a memory of him that might surprise folks that didn't know him as well? And I consider myself someone who, I knew Bill Walton from afar, and obviously the Blazers won a championship a little bit before my time. But I'm just curious, is there something surprising about him or a memory about him that folks may not know?
Well, he hated to lose that U of O game because I had been teasing him for years and years. This goes back to my days in law school in 1974, and Bill's Bruins came to Mac Court, and UCLA was a powerhouse. Wooden was coaching, and the UCLA team, of course, was seen as just being able to mop the floor with everybody. But we had Ronnie Lee in those days, and it was just a staggering game. I thought that some of the equipment from the top of the stadium was going to come down. It was Mac Court, and the room was rocking. I've never been in a place like that, and Bill remembers it that day and thought our crowd really was making a difference. But for people who knew him only as a genial, commentator, I'd say probably the thing that they'd be most surprised about is he loved winning, and he hated to lose. And I'll remember always the conversations where I basically would start needling him about the Ducks win in '74 at Mac Court.
Did you ever get to play? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Conor.
Oh, obviously he won so much in Portland, brought the only championship, but it was so brief. What would you say his impact was, and how is it still present today, that impact for such a brief time with the Blazers?
It was something that was a kind of reflection moment for Oregon that lasted for years and years, because we all remember where we were when they won. We remember the parade in downtown. Those were memorable kind of times, and I still see people. I have town hall meetings in every county in the state. I've had more than 1,100 of them, and I can be out in some small county and a kid's wearing a Walton jersey.
Did you ever get to play against him? Did you ever just play pickup with him, or play one-on-one, or a game of horse, anything like that?
No, not really. I had reached the point, I wish I could say that I did, but I had reached the point where, other than a game of horse, and we just never were in the same place for a game of horse. But, I remember him practicing at the Jewish Community Center, back then. And, once in a while when the team would leave, I'd shoot around there, but I can't claim that we played, we talked.
Hey, if it were me, I would claim that we played, and I'd claim that I won. But you're a better man than I. So the Blazers they're giving tribute to Bill Walton on March 9th, coming up against the Pistons. I also read, I don't know if this came up, Senator Wyden, last time we talked, you had been advocating that the Blazers create some kind of a memorial for Bill Walton on the jerseys, which in fact they did do. But I'm curious.
A memorial outside Moda, because I thought particularly a one with Walton and Mo Lucas together would send a powerful image of what Oregon has always, been about, is bringing people together. And my God, those two did a great job. Anytime there was a community event and I'd be asked to come and speak as a senator or something, those two were back in the back laughing and kind of going, look at Ron, he's giving another one of those big speeches. He and Mo came from very different backgrounds, but I really think, and I've said this to the ownership of the Blazers, I think it would be great if they would do a statue, a memorial, something like that. But, Walton, the child of Southern California, Luke, from a very tough section then of, Pittsburgh, two very different Americans showed that they could team up and succeed in Portland. And their teamwork with the rest of the club, that championship, Lloyd Neal, Bobby Gross, Johnny Davis, Dave Twardzik, Larry Steele. I mean, what an amazing group of people. And I would just love to see Mo and Lucas honored together as a symbol of that incredible team and an incredible time for Oregon.
Yeah, that would be awesome. And we do want to respect your time. And wanted to get one last question before we let you go. So your book, It Takes Chutzpah, it dropped back in January. I was just curious, does Bill Walton or the Blazers either feature in your book or in some way inspired what you ended up sharing and writing for that?
There's a lot about coaching is really leading. And leading is what you got to do to bring people together, whether it's sports or life in the United States Senate. And I really wanted to write a book that talked about basketball as a big role in my life. I was recruited from Gonzaga. I went to Cal at Santa Barbara, and I talk in the book about getting that scholarship offer from Gonzaga. And I said, look, that's a real powerhouse. If I'd gone there, I would have sat on the bench even more than I did at Cal at Santa Barbara, where I went. But I could have shown for all time that a Jewish kid could play with the Jesuits. So I talked about basketball, and then at the start of the book, I used Steve Prefontaine as an example of an Oregonian with incredible chutzpah, because nobody gave him any chance of being a successful distance runner, and he's the reason that we've got that big stadium now in Eugene, and he's really been an Oregon sports icon, and I talk about him right at the beginning. In fact, Phil Knight and I, when I told him about the book, and I said, I'm going to focus on Steve Prefontaine right up at the start, all I got was a Phil Knight smile. And yeah, it does try to picture what sports really means in society. And, I wanted to write a book, guys, that wasn't your typical Congress book, because Congress books are written by people who have big egos, and they brag a lot about all the great things they did, and then they say they're being urged to run for president, and then they give you their website where you can contribute to their presidential exploratory committee. I didn't want to write any kind of book like that, and I'll tell you the last story about the book. I was out in the community, and a guy came up to me and said, you're the Senate guy, you played ball. Yeah. And he goes, yeah, I heard you were good back in the day. And I said, I was okay, I didn't want to just go off and bragging. And he goes, I'm getting this book. I'm looking at it now. I really want to know everything about hoops pa. And I looked at him and I said, hoops pa? Hell, if you're into it, get the book and we'll talk about basketball.
I like it. Well, cool. Senator Wyden, we really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much, guys. I'm looking forward to hearing this piece.
Welcome, and you have found We Like the Blazers. We are the 21st century ambassadors of hand-painted Portland Trailblazers mugs. Hold on, let me show mine. Of 5-on-5 Yale Rec Center basketball, and of US Senator Ron Wyden. I'm Connor Bergen. That is Brandon Goldner-Mullen. Brandon, what is going on?
Not much, man. You just reminded me that I am not certain how I'm going to splice that interview in here. Just so everybody knows, we spoke with U.S. Senator Ron Wyden today for the second time. He's basically our political correspondent, as I said in the intro of our interview. I guess I'm going to tack it on at the end, Connor. That's how we do it here. We just do it live.
Just like live. Just like we
Bill
figure
O'Reilly.
out things on the fly. Yeah. Right. Definitely. Well, I do want to get a brief update on your Yale 5-on-5 basketball, since I mentioned it. You mentioned to me behind the scenes that you had some basketball runs today. What was your stats?
Yeah. Oh, it's funny that you say that, because do you ever listen to No Dunks, the podcast, the starters, now No Dunks? Anyway, Trey Kirby, I think that they all play pickup basketball, but he admitted he started a couple years ago tracking his stats at his pickup games, and they were just all making fun of him for it. He's like, yeah, one time I had 30 rebounds. It's like over 7 games. Anyway, no, I didn't track my stats. Yeah, I know, I respect it too. I think Cassie and I are going to start going every Saturday morning. Shout out to Peter, who organizes those runs at 10 a.m., but we got there 9 something thing, got to warm up, and started with 3-on-3. Then Cassie had to go. And then, Connor did turn to 5-on-5. Also, shout out to Jay. There was one other person there, and there's always one who had that extra bit of tenacity, that extra bit of energy, that extra bit of competitiveness, that extra bit of hustle. That was Jay. He was really good, but he would like shoot and immediately like fight to follow his own shot every time. So after a couple of times of him getting like the O board again and again and again, I told the person on my team who was defending him, like, I got him. Let me at him. Ooh, and I got to say, I put the clamps on old Jay. It's not that he didn't score after that, but like he was not getting offensive rebound. And then we were like, he and I were joking about it because like I'm also kind of a try-hardy, hustle, good cardio guy. And we both were kind of laughing about how hard we were both playing. And so it was really fun. Hit some threes, hit some middies, had some misses, and had some good passes in there. So, yeah, man, it was good. It was a good run. Like 90 minutes maybe.
Damn. Yeah, no, that's hitting some threes. I didn't realize you had the jumper in your game. So that's
excuse me.
I'm sorry. I've seen the photo too of you shooting at I think a Trailblazers fan event with Anthony Simons looking on the background. So I should have known.
The form is a little questionable, Connor. I will say, like
the guide hand was a little far, but also I've seen plenty worse forms than that. So it resembled a pretty common jump shot. So I think that's half the battle. And yeah, I do want to say there's nothing more demoralizing than getting your teammate take you off a player on defense.
Honestly, thank you for saying that. I didn't want to do it. And the first time I had the thought, I'm like, no, this is just a pickup run. I'm not going to do it. And then after two more times of this dude, and just because nobody was putting a body on him, and I was like, okay, it's time. Like I need to take this assignment. And hey, like they were smoking us until that happened, and then it became much more even. And we lost more than we won, but we got a couple wins in there, so it was good. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, you were the inflection point in the game.
One last piece on playing pickup, and I'm curious your opinion about this. I've always, that's not true. Ever since at least my early 20s, before that, maybe not so much, but I've always been someone who's played hard, and I try really hard not to be annoying, which is I play hard, but what I'm not going to do, I'm not going to like body you up when you're just kind of hanging out on the 3-point line. Like I'm basically not going to touch you unless there's like reason to make contact. But then once you make contact, like I will not move. And so I do think that's a particular skill, is to play really hard without being the person who is like playing so hard that they're being annoying about it. And I feel like I do a really good job with that. So just props to me.
But, good. Yeah. No, you need one of those guys though on your team. You really do. We thank you, us basketball 5-on-5 hoopers of the world. We thank you for your service as being the guy who does the necessary work. Speaking of basketball, this is a basketball podcast.
Hey, it's all relevant. It's all germane.
Yeah, it's all in the same pot of soup. The Portland Trailblazers. The last time we talked,
they also play basketball.
Same level of competitiveness. The last time we talked, the Portland Trailblazers were red hot and rolling. That was the title of the podcast. They had won 6 in a row. I was jazzed up on Trailblazers Kool-Aid. Since then, the Blazers have lost 3 in a row, all on the road, facing tougher opponents probably than who they were facing on that 6-game winning streak, especially the Denver Nuggets. So, Brandon, just how are you feeling? We just entered the All-Star break. We're almost, we're entering that stretch run. How are you feeling after the high of the winning streak, and then now kind of the coming back to earth of 3 losses in a row?
This is going to sound like I'm a bad fan. I feel better because, again, we've talked about this, and are they winning too much? Are they not? They were just getting dangerously close to like I think you use the phrase staying in touch with like the 5th pick or the 6th, like staying within contact, I think is what you said, of those better lottery odds. And even just the 3 losses, frankly, has helped. But the other thing is due to the other reason why I feel a little bit better. I'm curious how you think. But due to the injury to DeAndre Ayton, we have seen more Kling Kong that, maybe we'll talk about that. But getting a chance to see some of the younger players get more run has been useful, although Shaedon Sharpe is still coming off the bench, which is a little strange. So I don't know, Connor, like I feel okay about it. And also like those, like 2 of those games were losses by more than 15 points. But they didn't feel like they were hopeless in any of those games. Like I feel like all 3 of those games had at least moments of competitiveness and like reasonable basketball being played, which is, I mean, what more can you really ask for?
Yeah, I think you're right. The only time they really lost kind of hold of the rope, as the Blazers like to say, was in that first game against Denver, and that happened in the 4th quarter. So like they were hanging in there. And then the second matchup with Denver, I was happy with that game. They hung in, like you said, they hung in the whole way. Even Chauncey, he's been leaning more towards moral victories, I think, as his season has gone on, which I don't blame him. Like, you can't cuss out the team every time they lose. But he said earlier in the season that game probably would have been like a 40-point loss. And I agree. Like, I think that game, the Blazers forced Denver to keep their starters in the whole way, and I think that in itself is a sign of improvement. But over like a more outside perspective, overall perspective, I do feel kind of better about how the season is going, just because that winning streak was fun, but it was never going to be anything like season changing, I thought. And
what was it really, teaching us about the future of this team, right?
Yeah.
When your leading scorer for most of those games was Anthony Simons or even DeAndre Ayton for a handful of them, and, the vets are getting big minutes. Like, what are we learning about what this team will be from that streak? And I don't know.
I think, like the stuff that they were learning was a little bit about defense, how this team can.
That's fair.
But it wasn't ready yet though. Like none of it, like you said, like the main scorers were still the vets. So like there were glimmers of stuff that I liked and took away, like the defense being a lot better, the forwards being a lot better on defense, Scoot Henderson improving. That stuff I think does like lend hope for the future. But as far as like this current construction, I didn't change my opinions very radically at all. So I'm happy that it didn't totally change what the season is, which is like mainly showing development while hanging around decent lottery odds so that you can add one more piece to this core. So yeah, like I don't think we're bad fans, because I think we took the wins for what they were and had fun.
I think we're bad fans.
I don't think we're bad fans.
Yeah.
Like,
thanks for making us feel better. Well, I also think I should double back to what I said. Like, what were you really learning? Like, we were learning about Toumani Camara taking on a bigger role. Like, he's now averaging double-digit numbers of points per game for the season. That's great. He's shooting over the last 10 games 40-something% from deep. That's pretty important, right? Like, and, when you say the defense, like, like the young players playing together, I think maybe my mind first went towards Chauncey Billups really getting what he wants out of these guys, which we gave him credit for in the last podcast, but also Chauncey Billups is probably not the future of this team. So we did learn some stuff really quick though, Connor. Talking about staying in contact with better lottery odds, this is a future that could be if they don't. I wrote a very brief. It's not even. I need a different term for when you aggregate. Sounds a little, disrespectful, but maybe it is. Just I aggregated a mock draft from ESPN where the Blazers were picking 8th. So the powers that be at ESPN, Jonathan Givony and others, they picked for Portland at 8, Igor Demin from BYU. Igor Demin, 6'9", that sounds great. Can pass, maybe one of the best passers in the draft. That's great. Can't shoot. And that's a big problem on this team, I think. And the point is,
they need some shooters.
They do. Who would he be passing to was part of my original insight in this aggregation piece that I did. The point being, because I'm not super familiar with the draft and the players who were in the draft, I don't follow it that closely really until the Blazers, their selection is set, their pick is set. The point is, this is the kind of player they might end up with if they fall too far down in those lottery odds. And Igor Demin, which is a guy who can't shoot, that's not great. That's not the kind of player you want to be hoping that they're picking this year. It's just not. So...
yeah, it's not flashy. Like I
don't think it's helpful. It's like more than not flashy. It's like, what is this? I don't know. It made it a little bit more real for me about why it's important to get better lottery odds, or else you end up with a guy who can't shoot.
Yeah, like I think the 6th spot is attainable. And from there, the odds are obviously they're not like amazing, but you're not in that like I don't think you're in no man's land at that point. You're basically where you have been the last few years.
Let's take a peek at the board, at the big board here, Connor. I generally go to ESPN, go to NBA standings, and then you can organize it by league rather than just by division or conference.
Oh, cool.
Right now, the Portland Trailblazers are sitting at 9th best odds. However, they're only a game behind the Bulls for 8th best odds. And then they're only 3.5 games behind the 76ers and the Nets for 7th and 6th. And to your point, then after that, they're a full 6 games back of 5th, and then a full 8.5 games back of 4th. So the 4th and 5th seem a little bit dicey at this point. But yes, could the Bulls, could the 76ers, could the Nets win more games? Could the Blazers lose more games? Absolutely. So yes, I think I'm starting to change my mind a little bit. I'm starting to kind of get...
You're starting to get on the tank train, aren't you?
A little bit.
Welcome.
It was that Igor Demin. When I saw that, and I'm just like, they can't draft a guy who can't shoot. 51% Demin, 51% true shooting. That's not good. Connor, 20% from college 3. Not. I don't care how well this guy passes. It was that. Sometimes, Connor, you need to get out of the abstract and have the stark reality of a specific example staring you right in the eyeballs. And that's what happened to me. Apologies to Igor Demin.
I was about to say, poor Igor Demin. He's probably a fine player.
Probably a super cool dude.
We're looking for like the radical change, Igor, and I'm sure you're gonna have a long career, and it'll be nice. But we want something that's just gonna revitalize the org.
Let me ask you this. And I think I know the answer, but let's say the Blazers don't get the best pick. Let's say they get like a 7th or 6th best pick. I mean, are you of the mind that they ought to take a player that has a much lower floor, but also a much higher ceiling? Are you of the mind that they should take a high risk, high variance player in the hopes that they may become a franchise cornerstone?
You know, I wrestle with that because I was of that mind, and because I have graduated from the school of thought of Steve DeWald, Blazers Edge draft guru, who that is
Blazers
very much
legend.
That is very much his framework. Even like Adrian Bernisic, he's also big on that. And maybe I'm just tainted by this previous draft because it was supposed to not be very deep, but like. I remember everybody was saying, "Oh, get that! What's his name? Salon." I think he got picked right before the Blazers. He was like an athletic wing, and several of those athletic wings, like Cody Williams, and Matas Buzelis and stuff like that. That was kind of like the flashy, pick this for upside. And I think Matas Buzelis is the only guy who's really kind of showing up right now. And even he's still very raw. And Clingan ended up, I'm so much happier that they got Clingan. Like, so I I think I'm going to say yes. I'm of the mind that go for the higher ceiling player, but
because
it makes me nervous, Brandon. I don't like getting things that are not like that you have to squint so hard to see.
No, I get. Yeah, you're right. That does suck. For the camera, I'm squinting. Yes, I get that. But Connor, and obviously we will have plenty of time to discuss this in the coming weeks and months ahead. Where are the Blazers getting their capital F franchise piece, if not from the draft? You may be of the mind that the Blazers could somehow, trade players, potentially future assets, to get someone on a different team who could maybe be that person. I don't think that's going to happen. So if not through the draft, then where is this franchise player coming from, unless you think that player's already on the team, right?
Yeah, no, I think in Portland's case, because it's not going to be free agency, like that's just throw that out.
It's definitely not going to be free agency.
So no, yeah, I mean it's got to be the draft, and
yeah.
So then swing for the fences, baby.
Well, because I mean,
yes, like takeaway.
Right now, yes, of course, I've already proven that as of today's recording, that my mind sometimes changes, and sue me, I'm a human. That does happen. But yeah, because where else is it going to come from? I don't think that person's on the team. I don't think that person's going to come in free agency. I don't think that person can come through a trade. So I guess they have to come through a draft. And if that's the case, then yeah, high variance is the way to go. And yes, it does. I believe most Blazers fans who were paying attention feel understandably a little bit squeamish about the medium to long-term prospects of this franchise, because I hate doing this because we don't have to do this all the time. Sometimes we can just appreciate basketball that's in front of us. It's starting to look like maybe this is a failed rebuild, which is really rough, because if that's true, we're going to be in the wilderness for a while.
You're ready. Wow, this is a stark change from you. So you're ready to call. You think failure is very. You're ready to go there already.
I'm ready to accept that could happen.
Yeah,
because if they're not going to have a premium pick this year, then what? At some point, these contracts for some of your players who you're expecting to be really good are going to come up. You will have eventually where the Blazers' most premium draft assets lie right now with their own pick from them being bad. Then also from the pick swaps and the picks unprotected they own from Milwaukee, which those aren't coming for years, right? It's not like they're not OKC. They don't have this treasure chest full of draft picks, just like he's the guy holding all the lemons. I can't hold all these draft picks. That's not Portland. So where are you getting your premium draft assets?
It's weird because, it's been talked about around the league now by various national pundits that the Blazers have taken a very unusual approach to the rebuild. And I think right now is where you're seeing maybe some of the negative downsides of that pop up, where they've kind of been putting around a team right now that's they're putting around all the good auxiliary pieces for a superstar, but they just don't have the superstar. They have a lot of getting Denny Avdia. That was getting a great third or fourth good player on a team, and keeping these vets around those would be nice supporting cast for Damian Lillard. And so they kind of jumped some of that. I don't know if jumping the right. Yeah, I think they've jumped the steps a little bit. Where now they've played decent enough where they have probably jeopardized their chance to get the franchise player, and so now they're stuck with this kind of roster of a lot of decent players and talented players, but they need that orbital superstar, and now it just comes down to they maybe need to get bailed out by insane lottery luck this year.
Well, right. And so I can also see, let's rewind to the beginning of this season or like last off season. How has your opinion of Shaedon Sharpe in particular changed between then and now? Because I'll say for me, last off season or the very beginning of this season, like before the season started, you're thinking like, okay, third year leap potentially incoming. It could be when he begins demonstrating that he can be like a 1B or 1A option. Have we seen that?
Only like really during that 3-game stretch in November where he scored like 30.
If I may be so bold, I will answer for you differently. No, we haven't seen that from him. We haven't seen that he can do that yet. So that's part of this is like, yes, like maybe if the Blazers were thinking like Shaedon Sharpe in particular, perhaps Scoot Henderson a little bit, that those players had the potential to be someone you could build around, then all of the other moves make more sense, right? And also, I do also get like keeping some veterans around, some consistency, some structure. You do need that to develop players. But I do think that halfway through the season, we have to be pretty honest with ourselves. Scoot Henderson looks better. It's not like, I mean, concerns that we had about him after his first season are not assuaged for me. So that's, I mean, my opinion changes as what I see changes. And it just, yeah, I didn't mean, we've gone down a road I did not expect to go down, Connor. But
yeah, it's a little bleak, but it's like, I think it's rational. Scoot, yeah, like I've been so excited about Scoot and his recent emergence, but it still is like, he's not the number one for sure right now. Like that's not what he projects to be. I think, yeah, the franchise probably was hoping that it would be Shaedon. Like he probably showed the most flashes before the season and has the most ability and talent, but he's just so inconsistent with when he puts it on that like he's not a bankable superstar right now by any stretch. So
I also don't really think that him averaging like less than 30 minutes a game for the last 10 games is really great. Like if you're trying to see if that's what he is, like benching him for not playing good enough defense may be great for this little saccharine sweet win streak, maybe not so great for his development or the long-term health of your franchise. Like, so maybe you could give him some pass to say like, maybe he's not being managed effectively if part of the goal is to see what he can do. I don't think benching him and playing him 26 minutes a game is the play. So that's not really his fault. But
I do wonder if that was the Blazers staff's like, I mean, they kind of said it like they're trying to give him a wake-up call. And because I do think they believe in him like a lot. I think Chauncey does believe in Shaedon. And so much this season he's talked about like trying to get Shaedon like more aggressive and to open up, and because he's just so low key that there was a comment in the Blazers Edge comment section that said like, oh, why is Chauncey so much harder on Shaedon than he is on a guy like Scoot? And like, because when Scoot was struggling, Chauncey was very positive with his talk to the press. Like he was like trying to be very reaffirming, like he'll figure this out. And then when Shaedon struggles, it is kind of like he shows it a little more that he's mad. And I do think that's because at the time Scoot was like, he was just playing so poorly that like I feel like they felt like they needed to just like somehow keep his confidence going. And with Shaedon, I think they're holding him to a higher standard because they do. I do think it's because they just believe in his talent, so they're trying to like get it out of him in a firmer way. I don't know if it's like the right call ultimately.
Well, okay, so then either way, there's something, and I do want to pivot off of this road I took us down. I'm so sorry, but like. And I'll let you can have the last comment or whatever after this. But my last comment is whether you think it's because the organization is failing Shaedon Sharpe's development by not playing him enough and putting him on the bench, or whether he's not up for the challenge. either way, that's not great. If you think that Shaden Sharp could be a 1B or like a 1C.5, or maybe even a 1A, right? Like, or a 2A.5, whatever, like somebody that you could reasonably shuffle the pieces and build around. My takeaway halfway through this season is the Blazers don't have that player on their roster, or at least that is not at all clear, and not even, I can't even really, going back to the squint thing, I can't even squint and see it right now.
Damn. I can squint and see it with Shaden, but the squinting is getting harder than it was at the
You'd be
beginning of the
squinting
season.
like George Costanza, squinting and seeing those dimes in the road, and like you'd have to really be. You'd have to take off your glasses and like really compress your facial muscles.
Yeah,
But
like get my eyes straight and just look right on both
Did you
eyes.
know, Connor, that I didn't know this, maybe everyone else does, and I'm dumb, that your orbital sockets and that when you squint, that part of it is actually compressing your eyeball. Like it's not just the eyelids, like you are actually putting ocular pressure that then changes your field of vision in some way. Somebody fact check me on that. I think that's true. But we're moving on.
I believe in it.
Me
I'm
too.
Tell everybody.
Yeah, tell everybody that squinting is actually squeezing your eyeballs shut. Connor, it is NBA All-Star Weekend. The Blazers have 0 All-Stars in the game, but the Blazers did and do, well, they did have, they did have 3 players selected who are under some kind of contract for the Rising Stars game in Bryce McGowan's, Toumani Camara, and Scoot Henderson. They had 2 players who played in Bryce McGowan's and Toumani Camara, Scoot Henderson out with an injury. And Connor, the Blazers now have 1 player left. Bryce McGowan's, whose team... Yes, thank you. You gave me that look, and I'm like, why are you looking at me that way?
Well, I think they lost. They lost in the championship, though.
Did that already happen?
For the Rising Stars? Yeah, they did it last night.
Oh, man, I am, yes, I thought that game was happening later. Okay, well, they have 0 players left. They had 3, then 2, then 1, now 0. What are you taking away from this? For any 3, like for Scoot Henderson, it would have been his 4th, by the way, appearance, which is wild. 2 with the G League, and then once as a rookie, once as a sophomore. But are you taking anything away from either Bryce McGowan or Toumani Camara from this Rising Stars game? Either of them?
Just like happiness, just good vibes for both. I love that Toumani is getting national recognition because it seems like the most deserved. Even like Rob Perez, Twitter personality Rob
Worldwide
Perez. Worldwide Wob. He does other things than Twitter, but he said like Toumani Camara is now like TV1 status. So like Toumani's. I've just been so impressed by Toumani all season on a nightly basis, and I love that the word is getting out because I think getting recognized for something like defense, especially on a lower tier team, is so hard. So for him to get this honor, I think is just more meaningful than most. And he got introduced at the game last night as a relentless Rip City nightmare, which I thought great work.
I feel like what we're experiencing as fans is a relentless Rip City nightmare, Connor.
Oh, no. Hey, Toumani, you know what? For as much as doom and gloom as we said before, Toumani is
thank you. Yep.
good, and him and Scoot had that piece over the weekend that they want to get a championship here, so let's hang on to some of that right now. But just to see, like they seem to be described as a defensive nightmare is so awesome for him. And then Bryce McGowan's, playing in the G League, I think, is a grind, and for him to get rewarded by also getting to go to that big stage and then play great. He led his team in scoring in their first matchup against Toumani's team. He hit the game-winning 3.
He was second in scoring, second to Leonard Miller, who had 14 points. McGowan's at 12. Sorry, I'm looking at the box score. But
no, yeah. I'm glad you did. And then he hit the game-winning 3, and just. When you're playing in the G League, man, those crowds are small. Like, you can hear the hecklers and stuff. Like, so to just, I had talked to him.
Are you talking smack about the Child Center? What are you doing?
No smack to the Child Center, but just it must be a interesting experience to go from the, he's on the 2-way contract. He's going into these big NBA arenas, not really playing, and then going to these arenas that have like a few hundred people sometimes. So I was happy that he got the national like TV experience and played well in it. I talked to him before he went in the locker room like a week ago, and it doesn't mean like nothing to those guys. Like he told me how excited he was and how it was validating for his hard work, and that his family was flying out for the game and we're going to be in the crowd. So just great that it all like ended pretty well. Even though they lost in the championship, he still got his moment in the semifinal.
That is awesome. Also, like, I don't think it's any small feat that the G League team, his first game, they beat Team M, which had both Thompsons, had Bilal Coulibaly, had Tamani Kamara, had Bub Carrington. I mean, these are really good players, like players who are much too good to be in the G League. And the fact that the G League team won is pretty sweet. And yeah, I'm with you. Also, like, just a little bit more on Tamani Kamara, who is quickly becoming one of my favorite reasons to watch a Blazers game. And if he hasn't been already, it's probably shame on me for only saying he's only now becoming. But the fact that he is able to get his offense more consistently, that he seems willing to even try to do kind of off the dribble stuff. I'm not saying that I think Tamani Kamara is going to transform into some ball dominant, but the fact that he can do that stuff and the fact that his shooting is coming along is very important and very sweet, and we like it. And so, yeah, just as a stark contrast to the previous conversation we had about other things, shout out to Tamani Kamara.
He's the best part of the season, I think. Like, would you say?
Is he simply the best? Better than all the rest? Better than anyone I've ever known? Yeah, I mean, yes. I mean, I think he's the best part of the season individually. Yeah, for sure. So anything else on Damian Lillard, who's not a Portland Trailblazer, although he did just partner with PSU to send a bunch of kids from the East Bay area to college, which is awesome. A Damian Lillard Scholars program, $25,000 per student, plus room and board and clothes and stuff. Really, really cool stuff. So shout out to Damian Lillard. Clearly, Damian Lillard loves Portland, but he's playing in the 3-point shootout. Are you watching any of this stuff tonight? I think I'm on recap duty for some of it, which I volunteered for reasons unbeknownst.
I don't.
You watching the skills challenge?
I think I'm going to watch the highlights. I did watch some of the game last night because the Blazers were in it, and I enjoyed some of it. So but with no Blazers connection and no Stephen Curry, Sabrina Ionescu shootout, I think I'm going to just catch the highlights and see who won, see if the dunk contest brought anything worth checking in on.
Can I say though, what do you think of this? As the All-Star game and festivities have become just in totality a joke, the 3-point contest, I think, is the last bastion of pure all-star, because it's something that the players can go all out in competitively, and they still do. It's an event that's been around for a very long time. I think the 3-point contest is like the last piece of the All-Star game, which is even worth watching. I mean, that's a little harsh, but
no, yeah. It is the last thing that players go hard at, and
right?
Because
exactly.
it's the easiest thing to go hard at. So yeah, I 100% agree. And last year, the coolest part was the Stephen Curry, Sabrina Ionescu shootout. And I was at a bar watching the festivities with friends, and the bar we were at wasn't paying attention at all. And then the 3-point shootout happened, and everybody stopped, and like the bartender went up and turned the sound on, and they watched.
It's kind of cool.
So I don't. Yeah, and people at that bar, by the way, loved seeing Dame too. So like that was the only time people paid attention, was for both the Steph shootout and then the larger 3-point shootout. So I agree, and I love. Real fast, this person for the Golden State of Mind SB Nation site, I don't have the writer's name, but they had a quote where they said Adam Silver took a rack full of money balls and punted it into the sky by not having the Stephen Curry Sabrina shootout come back. And I agree. And I loved that line. So I wanted to give it some shine.
Shout out to Sean Keane of Golden State of Mind, who did in fact pen that sentence. I do know how to use Google. My understanding was that, and I know that their official statement didn't say this, but I thought I was getting the impression that Sabrina Ionescu was sort of like, that's okay. Which, if I don't know if that's true or not, if that's true, totally get it. Like, it's. I don't know. Like, I understand that. Like, I do, from her perspective. And also, like, what they did last year was so cool. And it's kind of nice just to let that be a thing that happened, maybe. Like,
that's a good
too bad for the NBA, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't do too much research into why it didn't happen, so that may have been, and I mean sense. That's
not part of the official statement, but I thought that there were some like unconfirmed rumblings a few days ago that it probably wasn't going to happen. And it's probably because she was like out on it, which again I completely understand that and respect that. Okay, so that's the All-Star weekend. We're not going to have another game for a while, at least 5 more days, I believe.
God help Blazers Edge.
God help us, and God help all the brave men and women who are contributing articles, including Brandon, who aggregates anything he can find. I am not one of the harder working. Connor, you, Dave, and Tim do just heroic work, and like no bullshit. Like, thank you. Like y'all keep that place moving, and I'm happy to be a part of it in a small way. But I would be remiss if we didn't leave today without mentioning Donovan Clingan, who had possibly his best game as a pro. What would you say about that in the Blazers' last game against the Nuggets with 20 rebounds? I'm searching so hard for this.
Career high 20 rebounds. The game before that in the loss, career high 21 points. So back-to-back career highs.
Back-to-back jacks. 17 points, 20 boards, 2 assists, 3 blocks, 7 of 12 shooting in a mammoth 31 minutes on this Chauncey Billups team. It's tough to get that many minutes as a young player. But yeah, I mean, is this like, DeAndre Ayton's going to be out for at least 4 weeks with a calf strain, I think is what it was. And
which I wouldn't be surprised if that's curtains on.
It could be all she wrote for this season for DeAndre Ayton, but like, so you're going to see some more Cling Dong. Cling Dog. Cling Dong. That's like when you come up to someone's house. Like, Cling Dong. What do you think about Donovan Clingan? Is this dude, does he deserve more run? And why is the answer yes?
I was going to say, for sure. It is funny that like the second minutes open up, Clingan gobbles them up and then performs some of his best games of the whole season. Like, it's slightly expected because when he gets minutes, he's impactful.
But sorry, quick interjection. Against the best center in the league, pretty great. It's not like Nikola Jokic, his defense, advanced metrics and the eye test say maybe 2 different things, but against the best center in the league, pretty cool. Not so bad.
For sure. I think there's like all that worry about, can he handle like the minutes and the load? I think some of his injuries this season has like contributed to maybe it being more difficult, because it seems like as he gets his conditioning and gets going, then he's had to sit out. So this will be a great opportunity for everybody to see for an extended stretch of time, like how Clingan does he's going to get more minutes. It's like going to happen. how he handles it for over multiple weeks and maybe even multiple months.
Yep, I agree. I don't know why I had myself on mute and I was scrambling to unmute. Yes, I'm curious, and I don't mean to speculate too much, but you're right. So I'll speak for myself. I'll speak from the I, which is something that I was introduced to that concept at this leadership retreat I was telling you about off air. But I saw that when Clingan returned from injury, to me, he didn't look quite right. Definitely looks a little better now. I definitely don't think he's in perfect cardio shape yet, which is fine and to be expected from an enormous human being who is a rookie. The NBA has a long season, Connor. 82 games. It's a lot of games. It's a lot of moving around. But yeah, I'm excited to see. I would love to see him 30 minutes a game for 3 games in a row, 30 minutes a game, 3 games in a row, 3 games over 5 days. Something like that would be super, super cool to see. I'm scrolling through his game logs. There aren't even that many consecutive games with more than 20 minutes. It's happened a few times. It hasn't happened a ton. I could have done my research before, and I'm trying to look at the most number of minutes he's played in 2 consecutive games. The last 2 games were 21 and 31 for a total of 52. Back in early January, he had 24 and 27, so that's 51. Another 52 back in November. So 3 games in a row, 3 games in 5 nights, something like that, 30 minutes a game. I would love to see it. I think that'd be a big step.
I think one of the last times too he really started picking up a lot of minutes was that that game he got injured against the Houston Rockets, where he had 19 rebounds or something like that.
Look at you.
That was totally not exact, but it was around there for sure.
No, it was. That was exact. That's exactly how many rebounds he had. So good job.
Hell yeah. But and that was when it was kind of oh, he's coming into his own, and then he got hurt, and it just put the brakes on it. So now you get another stretch where he's coming into his own, and now we get to see how long it can go. What I love about Clingan's game is he's huffing and puffing, he's working hard out there. So I don't want to make it sound like he's not. A lot of it has to do with his motor, but he's so big that he doesn't even really have to do too much other than work hard out there. He's just so big that rebounds fall into his radius,
he's
and then he just puts it back up.
Nearly flat-footed.
Yes.
It's
and it's so easy for him to be so impactful. And these games where he's scoring near 20 points, it's almost all off dump offs and just the point guard drags the big attention and then they drop it off to Clingan and he dunks it, or he gets a offensive rebound and he puts it back. He's even doing where you used to see if there was one tall kid in an elementary school basketball game where he would just miss 3 layups in a row, but he was so tall that he could just keep grabbing it and putting it back in. Yeah. He's doing that. Part of the reason why he had so many offensive rebounds against Denver, where he set his career high, was I think he must have had 2 possessions where he got 3 in a row just off his own misses and then put it back in.
Hey, Connor, don't say that. Yeah, I noticed the same thing.
And I liked it. It's great.
I have thoughts of ways to change the NBA in incremental ways. I think that an offensive rebound off your own miss should be half of an offensive rebound.
I hate it.
Well, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous.
No, it's a little ridiculous. It's rewarding.
Yeah, you could have there have been possessions before where it's 2 possessions in a row where the guy gets 3 offensive rebounds each possession, scores each time. And so he's 2 for 6 with 6 offensive rebounds. Wow. And it's so I don't know, man, give him a half.
Yeah, no. And, It would the tip-in, the one when they reward the tip-ins, like the
should be a half
tip-ins as a
also,
rebound. That's when I'm kind of like, okay, he kind of just like swatted at the ball.
Yeah, we've got ideas on how to fix the NBA game, but shout out to Donovan Clingan. We'd like to see more of him. We're not going to see any more of any Blazers until the 20th, correct?
Yes. And before we move on from Clingan, I do want to give DA his flowers, because he was great during that stretch, and you really did get to see how impactful dominating can be when he's really locked in, and he was a big reason why they won those 6 games in a row. So it is unfortunate that he got hurt like at that stretch, right when it was kind of really clicking for him.
I think that's right. I mean, and other people are noticing too. I mean, DeAndre Ayton was nominated for NBA Player of the Week. That's not nothing. So, shout out to DeAndre Ayton. I think he deserves the credit that he has earned through his play, and I think that's really awesome. So shout out to him. Do you have anything else that you want to touch on before we adjourn for today? Actually, sorry, until... I'm still, Connor, I'm so confused where I'm going to put this interview with Senator Wyden. But do you have anything else for right now?
I think enjoy this stretch of no basketball in the next few days, and then lock back in, everybody, for the home stretch.
Lock it in. And if you want to lock in with us, you can always do that at WeLikeTheBlazers.com. You can also find us on basically any podcatcher. Just search We Like the Blazers. You can also search the social media site Blue Sky for either Connor or myself. Just look at our names. I also messed up my name again, I realized. You did the intro. It's Brandon Golder Mullen. At some point, we'll become Brandon Mullen. But we're proud to be a part of the Blazers Edge family of podcasts and Rogue Media Network, which includes Trail Daddy with Dave Deckard and the Rip City Roundtable with Cory Dickman. That's it. Those are all the words I have in my brain. All of them. Until next time, appreciate you all, and go Blazers.